Homeschooling isn't always picture perfect. Welcome to Homeschooling with Dr. B, where we'll help you find solutions to the challenges you face and celebrate your successes with you. Now, please welcome your host, Dr. B.
Welcome to my Tenacious Homeschool Tribe. Today I'm coming to you from our little condo in Florida. So I'm using a background filter. That's actually a picture of one of our homeschool rooms that we have had throughout the year. So with the holidays coming up, I thought I'd talk to you about some of the pitfalls and some of the fun things that you can do. First, one of the big pitfalls of the holidays. No one can ruin the holiday season for a homeschooler faster than family. And what do I mean by that? During the holiday season, family comes together, and the questions start emerging. But this is not a good time to try to explain the benefits of homeschooling to family who don't understand or are resistant to it. I remember one time I was so looking forward to seeing my sister who lives in California, and we were living in Florida at the time. I was super excited. This was Thanksgiving. I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have a great time. The kids really love her. It's going to be such an enjoyable experience. Instead, she decided to question me about homeschooling. And I truly did my best to answer all of her questions as honestly as I could. What did she say to me? I'm just really concerned that the girls are going to be the weird homeschoolers. As someone who had always been very careful not to express negatively about her children, this just really hit me hard. It hit me harder because this was the holidays. This was Thanksgiving. We were supposed to be grateful that we were together. We were supposed to be having a good time. And instead, she kind of soured the whole thing. The girls kept asking me, are we the weird homeschoolers? And I said, yes, we are. We're the weird homeschoolers. Let's go on a field trip. My daughter was like, okay, I'm down with that. I'm down with being the weird homeschooler. But honestly, they were the weird homeschoolers anyhow because they have an extensive vocabulary. They're very well read. They're very smart. They're up on social issues. And they tend to have very adult opinions about things that are going on in the world. And their mother's a retired college professor who has a, like they said in the Big Bang Theory, a quirky personality. Not quirky, quirky. Right? So they didn't have a shot. They were going to be weird no matter what. But this incident just really soured the holiday for everybody. Not just because you're going to be asked to explain your choice to homeschool, but because a lot of people are going to spend a lot of their time trying to convince you that it's wrong to be a homeschooling family. So how are you to handle this situation when the holidays are coming up and we get together for Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and, the key is to be prepared for the potential questioning. That if you're prepared mentally, if you talk to your kids about it, it won't hit you as hard when the questions and the potential nastiness comes up, because it will come up, it's the holidays. So how should you respond? Really, the response is up to you. Everybody handles things differently. And a lot of it has to do with how family approaches the situation, the mood that we're in, how stressed out we are. But here are some good comebacks that I've heard from other moms or that I've used myself. The random testing. During the holidays, relatives love to test your homeschoolers, right? And they will say things like, I can't believe your child doesn't know X. Think of the absurdity of this. Why are homeschoolers expected to know everything? Traditionally schooled children don't know everything, but in the case of a homeschool child, the quiz hits and the expectation is that they should know. And you start to question yourself. Did I do a good job? Why doesn't my child know this? Should I have prepared them better? Don't go there. Just don't go there. Keep in mind that your child is being tested by someone who is used to the traditional educational system, yet at the same time, they're not teachers. And even if they are, if one teacher were to test children from one classroom and test children from another classroom, they would get completely different answers. That's just the way that it is. So it's absurd to get trapped into the quizzing. I like to call it the quizzing quicksand. Another one, which I kind of discussed when I was talking about my sister, is calling your kid the weird homeschoolers. Are they the weird homeschoolers? As I said, my kids never had a chance. They have me as a mother, and I am pretty weird. The reality is that homeschool kids tend to participate on a lot of extracurricular activities that are centered around their specific interest. Traditionally, school kids just don't have the opportunity to do those things. They just don't. They're limited. I see it with my kids' friends. Like right now that my kids are attending conservatory in the afternoons, they attend it 4 times a week. They're in plays, and the other kids are limited because they can't finish their schoolwork before the conservatory classes start, and because their schedules are so full. So sometimes our kids seem to be weird because they are so focused on their areas of interest and they know so much about these particular areas. They're not necessarily interested in a broader perspective. In the case of my kids, they are interested in a broader perspective because one of them is interested in forensic science and the other one's interested in being an attorney. So they're interested in a broader worldview. But even then, people think they're weird because they are so well informed and their vocabulary is so large and they are so incredibly articulate. Now, I feel very strongly with this one. When people start calling your kids weird homeschoolers, I don't allow it with mine. Even though mine have gotten older and they embrace the weird homeschooling label, I don't allow it because it's a form of bullying and harassment. And my children are happy. I want them to stay that way. They're happy, they're confident, and it is important for me that they stay that way. Now, believe it or not, family that's supportive is not necessarily any easier than family that is not supportive of your decision to homeschool. They will make endless suggestions, sometimes very unrealistic suggestions. Oftentimes people will say, well, your child is smart. Why don't you put them in college? They have been tested. They do test in ending college level for almost everything, beginning college level for math. Just put them in college. That would be the best thing for them to do. No, I know that for some families, that's the right option, but it isn't for us, right? As you heard earlier, one of my daughters suffers from anxiety. The other one suffers from anxiety, OCD, ADHD, and now Tourette's. And even if they didn't have any of those challenges, here's the situation. They just turned 14. I want them to go through the process of growing up emotionally, not just educationally. I want them to have the time to be kids and to enjoy their adolescence as much as they enjoy their childhood. I don't want to take a stage in life away from them. I want them to go through all the stages at the pace that they need to go through, not the pace that everybody else thinks they should be at. Of course, there's also the family that supports you and wants to volunteer to homeschool your kids. This was my mom-in-law. And she had this thing about handwriting. She wanted to teach my kids to have perfect handwriting. The reality is that in today's society, we've outgrown handwriting. We really have. And while we did do a lot of handwriting books, my kids never got to the point where it was beautiful. It was perfect. It was like calligraphy. And frankly, I didn't care. I just didn't. My neurodivergent daughter, the one with all the ADHD, LCD, Tourette's, fine motor skills are a problem with kids with ADHD. And oftentimes in the school system, and this is one of the good things about the school system, is that they accommodate for kids that have these kinds of challenges. So while we did handwriting classes when they were younger, I still allowed her to use her laptop to type out her work. A, because it was less stressful for her. B, because then I could read it. Did her handwriting improve? Yes, it did. We actually went through fine motor skills therapy for several years. But the bottom line is, it is not something that's important to our family. So having somebody put pressure on the kids or on me over something we don't think it's important was just unnecessary stress. So how do I handle these situations, right? What do I say? As I said, the comebacks are a matter of personal choice, but over the years, I did develop a few. You're welcome to use them if you find them they fit your needs or your personality. When people with children start questioning me or start giving me a lot of aggressive advice, they're being very persistent about what I should be doing with my homeschoolers, I very graciously ask, if I let you decide where my child should go to school, will you allow me to decide X for your child? And people usually stop dead cold there. Because of course they don't want you to just make any decisions about their children. They don't. And right then and there, they realize they've crossed a line. And they usually apologize and back up. Another one that I often use, especially with people that I like, is we don't discuss our family decisions with others. Because we don't. We don't ask other people's opinions regarding our kids' education or health issues or challenges. We don't. The reality is that I'm confident that I know my kids better than anybody else. And I bet you do too. You understand their needs, you understand their challenges, you understand their strengths better than anybody else. Another version of that comeback is we don't discuss the decisions we make about our children with others. And people will sometimes push that boundary. They will make the argument that they have your kids' best interest at heart, which they probably do. But that still doesn't make it their business. It still doesn't make it their business. What I find in my personal experience is the faster you nip this in the bud, the faster you will be enjoying your already stressful holiday. Because let's face it, there's cooking, there's stuff to do, there's running around to do, there's get buying to do. You don't need to be dealing with this. All in all, what is important is that you enjoy your family time with your family. Respond the best way that meets your personality and your needs. In general, during the holidays, I take the diffuse or reroute attitude. I will reroute the conversation. I will change the conversation because I want to enjoy myself and I want my guests to enjoy themselves and I want the kids to enjoy themselves. The rest of the year is another matter. I let my sarcastic snarkiness come out. But you don't need to hear those. Those comebacks. Sometimes they're not very nice. So, the thing to remember is life can be overwhelming, but homeschooling doesn't have to be. So don't let the family ruin your holidays. Don't forget to join our sometimes challenging but always rewarding homeschool journey by subscribing to our podcast, blog, or YouTube channel. If you're new to the show, don't forget to check older episodes. You will probably find some helpful information there. Also, check us out on Facebook. We just started a homeschooling support group on Facebook. Look for Homeschooling with Dr. B. And you can find more links and resources by visiting our website. Till next week, enjoy your kiddos.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Homeschooling with Dr. B. Head over to homeschoolingwithdrb.com for more information and resources. That's homeschoolingwithdrb.com. Until next time.